Thanks, Alison. Yes, welcome to the meeting of the Swansea Bay City Deal Joint Committee. The first item on the agenda is election of a chair for the Joint Committee. Do we have any nominations, please?
Happy to propose Councillor Rob Stewart.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I can't see the chamber, so I'm uncertain if there's any nominations from the chamber for the moment. But can I have somebody to second that one, please? That nomination.
Yeah, I'm happy to second Debbie John Harvey.
Thank you. Do we have any other nominations? I can't see again in the chamber, so
nothing in the chamber.
Thank you. Then can we proceed to the vote, please, for Councillor Stewart to be appointed as the chair of the Joint Committee? Can you raise your virtual hands? And again, in the committee room, sorry, I can't see in the chamber, but
yeah, unanimously in the chamber.
Thank you. I can see hands raised here on screen, so I think that's moved and proposed and forwarded. Sorry. Did somebody say anything in the chamber then? Sorry. Apologies, Wendy. I didn't know whether I could see somebody raise a hand on the screen.
Chamber, so all fine.
Fine. Thank you. Then, Councillor Stewart, you're in the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate that. And thank you, colleagues. Again, very appreciative of your support. I look forward to working with all of you to deliver or continue to deliver the projects within the city deals. So I'll move swiftly on then to apologies for absence today. I can see that we've had several apologies in, and we've got some substitutes in the meeting today. So apologies have been received from Councillor Darren Price and Councillor Hazel Evans is with us today. So welcome, Councillor Evans. Dr. Neil Woodin is sent his apologies from Howell Dda University Health Board. I'm not aware if we've got a substitute in for Dr. Wooding. And also we've got apologies from Professor Paul Boyle from Swansea University. And again, not sure if there's a substitute in, but again, welcome, colleagues. Are there any other apologies to note for today that anybody wishes to record?
No.
Okay, if not, then we'll move to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations anyone wishes to make for any items on today's agenda? No, I don't see any indications. We'll move then to item 4, which is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of February 2025. I've not been asked for any amendments to the meetings, but to the minutes, sorry, but I will take them if there are any. If not, I'm more than happy to move them as a true record. And could I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy.
Debbie got a hand up, Rob.
Yeah, apologies, Debbie, if you'd like to come in.
Sorry, I can just see something in the chat, Chair, that we need to elect a vice chair. We don't actually need to formally elect a vice chair. The terms of reference specify for all deputies to be appointed as deputy chairs, so they will sit when needed. So there's no need to formally appoint.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, I think the 3 fellow leaders take those deputy positions, don't they? So thank you very much. Okay, can I just check if we have a seconder for the minutes? I think that's okay.
Yeah,
Happy to second.
Thank you, colleagues. And if you could show if you're in favour, therefore, or for approval. Thank you very much. Okay, those are accepted. On to announcements of chair. I have no formal announcements for today. And we'll go then to public questions. Are there any members of the public present who wish to ask any questions? Somebody advise me if there are any members of the public in the chamber. No. Okay, if not, we'll move to our first formal item, which is the internal audit report, and welcome Charlotte Hodges, who's going to take us through the update.
Thank you, Chair. As you'll be aware, we carry out an annual internal audit on the arrangements within the Swansea Bay City deal and report the findings to the Programme Board, the Joint Scrutiny Committee and the Joint Committee. The terms of reference for the 2024-25 internal audit review were agreed by this Joint Committee on the 17th of December 2024. The purpose of the audit is to try and provide assurance that the arrangements within the Swansea Bay City deal are adequate and effective, so that the aims and objectives of the region can be delivered effectively. There were a number of areas that were included within the scope for 2024-25, which included follow-up of previous recommendations, governance arrangements, project management and monitoring arrangements, financial management and risk management. As part of the review, we looked at a large number of records, and I'm grateful to Chris and his team and John and his team for the speed in which they provided us with documents and responses to queries so that we could undertake the work required to conclude the audit in a timely manner. The assurance rating continues to be substantial, which means that it has been determined that there is a sound system of governance, internal control, financial management and risk management, with internal controls operating effectively and being consistently applied to support the achievement of objectives. This is the 5th consecutive year that the audit has received a substantial assurance rating, and it's pleasing to be able to continue to provide this level of assurance. There are 2 recommendations relating to budget setting and service level agreements, both of which have been accepted by management. It's therefore recommended that the Joint Committee reviews and endorses the findings and actions of the 2024-25 Internal Audit Review. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Charlotte. And yes, as you say, really pleasing to see that substantial green rating, and my congratulations to everybody involved in ensuring we get to that point. And as you say, the 2 noted recommendations have been accepted. So very pleasing to see. I'll open it up for any questions or comments anybody has for Charlotte on the audit report.
Chair, if I can just come in and just thank Charlotte and the team for their work and recognise the 2 recommendations that are being implemented. You will notice later on the agenda we have an interim budget report which actually addresses the one, and some of the other areas is linked to the PMO review, which is ongoing. So they're both very useful recommendations to support some of the actions that we were moving forward with anyway. So just like to thank Charlotte and the team. Diolch.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Chris. And again, on behalf of the Joint Committee and everyone present, again, Charlotte, thanks for the work undertaken as part of the audit review.
Thank you, Chair.
If there isn't any further questions, then I'm happy to move. Can I look, colleague, for a seconder, please?
Happy to second then, Chair.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And therefore we'll go to the vote. Everybody in favour of approval, please, if you could show. Thank you very much. That is approved. Now, thank you very much, Charlotte. We'll move then to item 8, which is the Audit Wales Audit Inquiries letter, and I'll call in Chris to take us through this one.
Thank you, Chair. This is a standard questionnaire stroke letter that comes through from the audit on an annual basis, both as part of the local authority and also part of any other establishment that they audit. The purposes of it is to get reassurance from management and the bodies responsible for the governance of the organisation to ensure that certain areas around either governance or fraud or procedures is in place, and they use it as part of their assessment of risk in undertaking the audit. This is obviously pre the actual annual audit of the final outturn of this year and the statements, etc. And you will notice there are a substantial number of questions, all of which have been answered. Many of them are answers that are repetitive year on year because the status of most of the items are very similar. So Appendix 1 to 3 details them all. I won't go through them individually, but you can see the 23, 24 and 24, 25 responses there. You can see any amendments and you can see the comments, which we look for this committee to support and approve before we can return that to Audit Wales. So happy to take any questions, but hopefully most is familiar to members. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, and again, place on record our thanks for all the work that's been done on this. I believe this one is for information only, this item, rather than for approval. Just check that's correct.
Chair, I would suggest you approve it as opposed to just for information, because the committee is charged with governance of the committee. So if that's acceptable,
Yeah,
that would be more appropriate. Diolch.
Not a problem. That's perfect. Okay, colleagues, I'm more than happy then to move this formally. Could I ask for a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. If there aren't any comments or questions to Chris, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of approval, please.
2 in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's carried then. Thank you. On then to item 9, which is the portfolio business case, and I'll go over to John Burns to give us an update. John.
Thank you, Chair. So our portfolio business case is updated annually. This is our 2024-25 update. So just to reiterate the objectives of what we have for the City deal in terms of our investment, £1.3 billion target, covering 9 business cases, the idea that it will generate economic impact up to 2.4 billion and over 9,000 jobs, those remain consistent. And if anything, we're overachieving on some of those fronts. And it's all about helping accelerate economic regeneration. So in terms of the process that we went through, so all sections in the business case have been reviewed by PMO team members centrally. Revision was in consultation with all projects and programs, and we did that over 2 phases. The thing to note for this iteration of the business case is that it's now incorporated Q4 monitoring. In previous years, we used Q3, but by the request of the governments, we put in Q4 monitoring. It gives a truer reflection as to where we are at year end. And we also have shared the consultation draft, both with our programme board and our joint committee members. In the document, there's a lot of appendices, as you would expect, all of which have been reviewed, updated, or rationalised. And again, that's written into the narrative. So in terms of the consultation and feedback process, we drafted the document, sent that out to everyone. We received feedback from all projects and programmes and partner organisations. We had 35 feedback points across the executive summary and 5 cases. 28 of those 35 were incorporated into the consultation draft that you currently have now for approval. And based on the consultation, there were no fundamental changes. There were things like word corrections, typos, status updates, points of clarification, and update on project narrative. So if I move then, Chair, on to each case. So the first case being the strategic case. This is about demonstrating the alignment to relevant strategies and policy. We have to demonstrate a case for change and the potential scope for the proposal. So this is quite well-trodden territory for us. We have reviewed and updated all the policies and strategies to make sure that we are fully aligned, including the UK Government Invest 2035, the Modern Industrial Strategy and South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee Plan. Those are now incorporated in there. And at a project and programme level, there's been alignment again with the strategies which are found in Appendix 1.1A and 1.1B. We've also looked at updating several existing initiatives, things like the Regional Learning Skills Partnership, the Celtic Freeport, our digital connectivity for the region, and the Corporate Joint Committee. And the narrative, again, has been updated associated with each of those areas. And then the last bit to highlight, Chair, is around the risk section. We have a portfolio risk register that we report quarterly. We've made sure that we've updated the red risks and issues to ensure successful delivery of the portfolio. So these summary points that I'm making are in each of it's in the executive summary and in the front section of each of the cases. There's a lot more narrative, Chair, in the remaining of the strategic case, but those are the key highlights. If I move then on to the economic case, this is all about identifying that the proposal delivers best public value to society, including wider social and environmental effects. So we've updated table 2.1 with all the summaries of the projects and programmes. There have been no further economic appraisals, Chair, within the 24-25 year, but we do note that Pentre Owl Zone 1 will be reporting their economic appraisal update this financial year. And we've also updated current jobs created, which I'll cover in the quarterly monitoring later. So the third case is the commercial case. The whole point of this is to demonstrate the preferred option, and that will be a viable procurement and well-structured deal between the public sector and its service providers. So again, the key highlights in the document are that we updated the procurement policy and reordered sections around 3.1, particularly around the prioritisation of the new regulations for procurement. We've removed requirements for EU funding projects because they now align to the new regulations, and what has been procured through EU funding is complete. We've updated the procurement section detailing the procurements to date and forthcoming procurements with an accompanying appendix of 3.1 showing our procurement pipeline. And again, if just to highlight on that point, there's a kind of red line on that chart in appendix 3.1, and it shows where we currently are and what we've achieved to the left and what we are planning to do to the right with the timescales involved. We've also revised section 3.4, which is around the construction impact assessment, and the current funding gap of the remaining projects to be delivered is around 44.9 million. That's the estimate. And then the final part, which is nice to see these coming through, there's a case study around community benefits, and those community benefits have been delivered through the Pentre Owl initiative. So again, we're starting to see those type of things come through to show the wider benefits of what we're doing. Onto the fourth case, Chair, is the financial case. Chris or Stephen will cover this in quarter four financial monitoring, but just as the highlights, which will be reiterated. So the financial case is all about ensuring that we have an affordable business case and that the funding and preferred options, including for support for customers and stakeholders. So what we've done is updated the funding investment information, but particularly around the private and public sector investment. So what we're showing is our overinvestment overarching the whole city deal for the 15 years. We're currently estimating at £1.373 billion from last year, which was 1.253 billion. And the original city deal heads of terms were 1.274 billion. So we are demonstrating by 2033, we will have more investment across the city deal than what was planned. Our income, expenditure and cash flow forecasts have all been updated in section 4.2. And we've also updated information around grant drawdown and dissemination. So of the £241 million of city deal grant awarded, 176 has been receipted to date, and 63% of that, or 110 million of the drawdown, has been dispersed to all lead delivery organisations from the accountable body. So we've reprofiled the portfolio budget to show a forecast variance of 155 million within the financial year. And what we're doing in quarter one, myself and Stephen, we're going to look at reforecasting for this financial year, moving forward for the remaining years up to 2033 to get as accurate forecasting as we can. Investment profiles are now anticipated to be have a negative cash flow between years 9 and 10, so that's 2026 to 2028. But delays that we've had to some project delivery can negate some of that negative cash flow. Then the final point on financial cases around the information on financial variances. So there's a rationale and a reason behind the variance. Those are made sure that they're stipulated in the document around Pentre Owl, digital infrastructure, Pembroke Dock Marine projects, etc. So the rationale and explanation for the variance is in there. The final case is management case. So this is about demonstrating robust arrangements in place for the delivery, monitoring and evaluation of a scheme. So we've updated the monitoring evaluation information that you've had previously, and making sure that the risks, issues and benefits and financial monitoring for Q4 are all updated. We've had project status updates and the associated investments with those. So what we had previously, of the 9 business cases, we had 36 things that would be delivered. We've now decoupled some of the Pentre Owl zones to now incorporate an additional 3. So there are 39 components, project delivery things that will be delivered across the entire portfolio. And again, those are summarised in the document for everybody to read. We've also had an update to our evaluation framework within the year. So we've made sure that that is summarised in the document and put in as an appendix. The evaluations will show the wider investment and the wider job creation and economic impact. And we should start seeing those coming through the pipeline in the next 12 months and beyond. We've also updated the gateway reviews. So these are all around insurance reviews. For the portfolio, the next one will take place in July this year, and also the projects and programs, they are all subject to gateway reviews. Information around internal audit and Audit Wales processes have been updated, along with comms, marketing, engagement implementation plan, and information around our senior responsible owners, project leads, and finally our project delivery roadmap for all projects and programs. And again, if I highlighted on pages 78 and 77 and 78 of the management case, those two tables which are summarising all of the components with the status of delivery and also the roadmap of the delivery plan, those are really good summaries as to where we currently are and what we are aiming to achieve in forthcoming years of the City Deal, Chair. So those are the 5 cases. Those are the highlights which are in the blue boxes that you have in each of the cases. But the next steps are obviously the presentation today, and we are seeking approval today, Chair, of the portfolio business case. We'll submit a final draft subject to any further changes from the committee to Welsh and UK government, as we do every year. And then myself and Chris Moore will attend what they call the Welsh Cities and Growth Deals Joint Implementation Board in June this year. And then that will, subject to an approval from the government, will await then the drawdown and decision of funding for the next financial year. So of this financial year, sorry, Chair. And Chair, that's a summary, and there's a lot of information to unpack, but that's a summary of what we did, what the updates are, and the process that we're going to follow today's committee.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for that comprehensive run through. As you alluded to, just some highlights, and I think it's good to see the GVA up by over more than £500 million compared to its original estimates, and good to see many of the numbers increasing in terms of the private sector commitment, etc. So exceeding a number of the original targets that were set for the deal. But can I just place on record on behalf of the committee all of our thanks for the work that's been done in updating the business case. I think we're in a really good position still. As you say, a few years to go yet until we deliver everything that we set out to do as part of the deal, but good progress continues to be made. And again, good to see the 3 additional deliverables from the Pentrowel scheme, and was pleased to visit that with other leaders recently, and was really impressed by what we saw down there. So again, thanks to you, Programme Management Office, all of our project and portfolio leads, and all the people helping to deliver the deal. I think the business case is a strong one, and hopefully will be well received by UK and Welsh government. So thank you for that. I'll open it up then for further comments and questions. I'll go to Councillor Hunt first. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and I echo all the comments you made there. Certainly, I know how stressful and how difficult John and his colleagues and everybody else in working in this. And I joined the City Deal. Well, it was well into its delivery stages, and I know how difficult, as I said, that they've worked extremely hard, and the costs, and as you don't deliver on time, they spiral sometimes out of the budget that we're supposed to manage, but bringing it back in. I just wanted to ask John a question. He talks about roadmaps, and you just highlighted, and we're still a number of years off. I'm not sure what was said at the very beginning, where the time frames of delivering projects, and I know they changed because they would do due to circumstances, but I just wondered, the signing off eventually. I hope I'm still here, but there'll be a lot of employment. I mean, I remember some meetings where we were looking at more people to be employed than we actually could achieve, and I just wondered the accountability back to will it be Welsh Government in the first instance, and we talk about auditing and etc. here about making sure the money is spent wisely because it's public funding. So I just wondered, light at the end of the tunnel, I'm probably asking, John, because I keep asking this question as well. Where do we eventually sign off the City Deal projects? And I know there'll still be things going on. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying that like an announcement and then showing more broadly what it actually did achieve. And I know we all got responsibilities, Rob, in our own local authorities for those projects. So I get that, but I think pulling it all together from this board will be important to showcase the excellent work, not just officers, but loads of volunteers and everybody else has been involved in it, because it certainly made a difference. So that's what you know what I'm talking about, John. But thanks, Rob.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. And John, I'll take a couple of contributions and then come back to you for you to respond. Jan, if I come to you next.
Yes, diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair, and bore da. Morning, everyone. I just wanted to echo really the phenomenal amount of work that underpins these papers that we see. It's really impressive, and I know it takes a huge amount of time, focus, and effort. So congratulations to everybody who's been involved in this. And just to say as well, from a Swansea Bay University Health Board perspective, how delighted and privileged we are to take part in the Campuses project, which we think is going to be another really exciting innovation. And we're looking forward to working with the University Council and partners on progressing that. Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd.
Thank you for that, Jan. Can I just check, is there anybody in the chamber who wanted to make a contribution before I go back to John?
No, nobody in the chamber, Chair.
Okay, John, do you want to respond to those points?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for your comments. It is a team effort, as we all know. In terms of the delivery timescale, so 2033, Councillor Hunt, is the delivery time frame of the city deal, but we can put that into phases. So obviously the approval of business cases and outline, then it's the approval of what gets built. And then once something's built, the infrastructure, mostly across the projects that we have, it's then about the evaluations, and we're at that cusp at the moment on some, not all. We've still got about 17 things to deliver in the city deal, but we have to get things into operation before they can be evaluated from an economic perspective, the wider jobs, the wider economic impact, etc. So that's why we have the evaluation framework with the profiles as to what people will be evaluating and when. So within the next, I would guess, within the next, well, not even guess, I know within the next 12 months, we will start those evaluations coming forward. So we're in the preparation stage of that. Until that happens, we won't get the wider economic impact. We currently have the direct. So those are the jobs created through the construction phases, through the operational phases, etc. So in terms of what the government's expectations are, my understanding is that we have to report this until 2033, but the lion's share of what we will have from an economic impact will happen over the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years. And again, whether Wendy as the SRO or Rob as chair would like to add to that, I'm happy to. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, look, I mean, look, this has been a, for those of you who remember the early days of the deal, you know, it's as Jan alluded to, it's taken a huge amount of effort to get the momentum going. And as I keep repeating to any Welsh government and UK government minister that will listen, you know, we are still the only deal in Wales that has all of its capital deployed and all of its programmes and projects in delivery. We've got a very good record. We've made huge strides. We hope to see those private sector figures increase, as was alluded to, in the coming years, and those jobs created numbers start to climb more steeply. But you know what, we should be very proud of the position we've got ourselves into, and you know, the numbers that we're now able to include in the business case are really impressive. But as John alluded to, it will be over the next few years now, you'll see further phases coming online and further milestones hit, which is really good. So again, very, very pleased with the effort, and again, repeat my thanks to everybody involved in getting us to this point. So just check if there anybody else who wishes to come in. If not, I'm happy to formally move the report or the business case. Could I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. And could I ask you all to show there if you're in favour of the business case? Thank you very much, colleagues. Okay, we'll move then on to the next item, which is the Joint Committee Interim Budget for 25-26. And Chris, I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, on screen. As members will be aware, we've had a 5-year budget in place up to the end of 24-25, which we have been monitoring against for all the functions of the PMO, but also the governance and the Joint Committee, etc. As referenced in the internal audit report earlier on in the meeting, that came to the end at the end of March this year, and effectively we hadn't put in a new budget in place for 25-26. That is partly because of some of the other work we're doing in terms of how we're going to take forward the Swansea Bay City deal, with what effectively has been the primary period of the original budget, where we were actually looking at the delivery of the output of the projects. And now, whilst some projects got delayed, they're all, as already been referenced, all in process of being delivered, and therefore there is a slightly different scale of work needed in the future for the 15-year period, and we will have responsibilities to actually deliver on the outputs and monitor the outputs for the full 15 years. Obviously, within that, then we have the work going on in terms of looking at the PMO office in conjunction with where CJCs are going in the future, and hence why I bring forward today an interim budget for a year to take us over the period of 25-26, with the thought process that during this year we'll have clarity in terms of how we will work in the future linked with the CJCs as well as part of that overall view. So the report presents one year interim position so that we can manage our budget for this current year. It sort of runs along a similar sort of path to the previous budgets. We have set the budgets in line with some of the inflationary items that have been used in the constituent authorities. As you will be aware, during the primary period, the first 5 years, we had contributions, and that's been referenced earlier. We had contributions from the 8 partners of 50,000 a year, and then we had the funding continuing of the 1.5% top slicing from the City Deal projects, which goes the full 15 years. So currently, we have used the 50 grand per year contributions from the 8 partners. We've utilised that, and we're now reliant for the funding of the rest of the City Deal project out of the 1.5% top slicing. So the report continues with the structure as it stands at the moment, bearing in mind that from the original PMO structure, there are 2 posts within that structure that have actually been put on hold and have not been reappointed. That's the PMO manager and the project development manager. That continues on the basis that those staff aren't going to be replaced. It gives us a budget then going forward, which produces a surplus of 34,000, which is actually listed on the Appendix A. The main components of that budget is the PMO office with the staffing of the current staff, plus then the accountable body and the governance structure around the Joint Committee. Many of the figures are consistent year on year, but there has been some fine-tuning around some of the costs where we can actually curtail it. I'm very conscious that actually what is illustrated in Appendix A is that we are bringing forward a deficit balance from 24-25 at 247,000. That goes with a surplus in 25-26 of 34,000, reducing it by the end of the year to 213,000. That is brought forward on the basis that actually the top slicing that we're reliant upon coming from the individual budgets, the individual projects, can only be released as the projects are advanced and as the payments go to the projects, and that runs over 15 years. But what I would emphasise that currently there is anticipated funding for that over the period of time. However, we have got to be conscious as we go into 26, 27 that the funding will withdraw. To give you an illustration, that we, at the end of 25, 26, we will have 1.1 million left for the remaining period of the city deal, and that will have to be applied over that period of time, considering the monitoring and the operational activity that we need to continue with over that period. The other alternative is, if that is not enough to sustain, we will have to look at alternative ways of funding the balance over that period. But I think we've got to wait for the CJC city deal outcome of the review before being able to conclude that, and certainly from my point of view, giving any advice as to how we take anything forward. Contained within the budget, we still have the accumulation of interest where we're holding cash in respect to the city deal. Anticipated next year there'll be 535,000 coming in during the year, but that obviously gets redistributed out to the individual constituent authorities on the basis of the original policy that we've put in place. So in summary, Chair, we've put together an interim budget for the year. The budget allows for consistency in terms of what we're operating at the moment. It allows to take account of the interest. It recognises the value that we can draw out of the top slicing this year, gives a surplus at the end of the year of 34,000, and we will monitor that during the year. In the meantime, during the year then, as the review takes place, we will come forward with a longer term budget for 26, 27 and the ongoing years. The report is here and the budget is here obviously for approval today, and it then also confirms the response to the first item on the internal review, where they identified that there was a budget not in place at the point of audit when they were considering the audit. So the recommendation then actually concludes on that first item as well. So happy to take any questions on the detail of it, but hopefully it's relatively self-explanatory. Diolch, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that. All very sensible in terms of why we have an interim budget before us. Colleagues who were on the CJC this morning will have received a report which was very similar in terms of outlining some of the considerations we have for the future structure and role of the PMO. So very sensible in terms of the approach that's being taken, and good to see us making some additional revenue off the investments we're yet to deploy. So all good in that respect. So I'll open it up to any questions or comments for Chris on this one. Steve, Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Just very quickly, Chris, I mean, it is self-explanatory, but you know, the interest income, do we investigate where potentially, when you're dealing with large sums of money, that interest could be maximised, and potentially, do we regularly look at where moving the money to maximise, as I said, a better interest deal or something of that nature? Just a quick question from you, Rob. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, we do. We invest the money on the basis of Carmarthenshire County Council as host authority treasury management policy, which means that we optimise the interest, but within the parameters of being prudent and recognising that it's public funds. So we do not invest in anything like shares or anything like that, but it is in counterparties that are graded according to our treasury management policy, which would be similar to what Neath and Talbot's or Swansea or any of the others are. So within parameters, we optimise it, but it's done on a an accountable basis that it's prudent and safe investments. So it's generally banks and the building society institutions, maybe other local authorities, but it's all done as part of our standard treasury management policy of the County Council.
Okay, thank you for that, Chris. I can't see any other hands up, so if everybody's content, I'm happy to move the report. Could I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. Could you show if you're in favour of the report, please? Thank you very much. That's approved. We'll move quickly on then to item 11, which is the Q4 24-25 financial monitoring. And I think we've got Steve Aldred-Jones to take us through this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. So this report for approval details the provisional Q4 financial monitoring and year-end position of the Joint Committee and the Portfolio Investment Fund for 24-25. The report is split into several sections, but I'll draw your attention to Appendix A on page 153 of the report pack. So at the top of the Appendix A, is the Portfolio Management Office. So for the year, the total expenditure was 472,000, of which staffing came to 419,000, and this included the 24-25 pay adjustment. So this is an underspend of 184,000 against the salary budget due to the fact that all posts are budgeted for at the top of the grade, and there were 2 staffing vacancies during the year, the PMO manager and the project development manager. Income is set out in the funding contribution section towards the bottom of the appendix. As you can see, the total projected income for the year is 3.271 million. So this consists of the drawdown of the top slice of 271,000, and this is from the dispersed grant awards. Then there's interest derived on the cash balances of around £3 million. Just to note, we did budget for the top slice at 723,000. And we've only achieved, as I said, 271,000. This is due to movements within the profiles of the projects, which I'll cover shortly. And then at the very bottom of the appendix, we can see that the reserve position. So from 23-24, we had a balance carried forward in reserve of a positive 182.9 thousand. But for 24-25, the net cost of the city deal accounts provisionally projected a deficit of circa 430,000. So once we take into account the brought forward reserve balance, we're now looking at a reserve deficit of 247,000. So although this is a deficit, this is primarily down to timing issues of the top slice income being generated, and this will be offset in future years as city deal as more grant is drawn down. So if I move on to section 3.1, it's on page 147 of the report. So as of Q4 24-25, we have an overall estimated investment position as 1.374 billion, and this compares well with the Q3 projection of 1.32 billion. But if you look at the annual investment forecast for the year 24-25, again, this is on page 148, we can see that we only achieved 97.3 million, showing an annual underinvestment of 155.7. So this is around about 40% of the yearly profile has been achieved. So this is a concern and is disappointing when compared to the Q3 year-end position, where we projected a year-end position of 166 million. So this is, again, this variance is down to variances across the entire portfolio, but mainly due to digital infrastructure having delays in their procurement activity, the HAPS project requiring a reprofile to reflect the completion timeline of the housing developments that have been approved for funding, and Pentra Owl, which has, as a consequence of extended construction for the program for Zone 1 and ongoing planning and assisted living of the Assisted Living and Wellness Hotel, there's been an adjustment as to when the local authority proposes to bring forward these future phases of development. And also due to this resequencing, private sector contributions are now reflected in later years. For the supported innovation and low carbon growth, the Switch project, there's been delays, which meant that planning and progression to REBA stage 4 did not happen until late in the year. And for the AMPF project, there's been an issue with the identification, negotiation and remediation of the required land, which has delayed the project. And then for Uregin, the annual forecast has been reprofiled into 25-26, with the project intending to go through a change control process. So to conclude, although the financial spend profile has varied by 155 million in the year, this variance has been profiled to be utilised in years 9 to 11, so that's 26, 27 to 28, 29. There are no reported effect on total outputs, investment or benefits to the portfolio. Thank you very much, Chair. Open to any questions.
Chair, can I just come in and add one comment, sorry. Where Steve is commenting regarding underinvestment, just for clarification, that's not necessarily underinvestment in the project, that's just in the profile and the timing of the project. And I just wanted to make sure the message was correct, that actually all projects are investing, we're just actually timing between the financial years as such. So I just wanted to put that clarification out, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I was going to make a similar point. I think it's for those of us who are familiar with the projects and the reporting cycles, it's the profile that's the issue here, in that money's not spent in the quarter it was planned to be spent, but it still will be spent and will still reach the projects eventually. So it's a timing issue as much as anything. And I think reassuring to know we are very clear on the reasons why the profiling is off for some of those projects and the reasons for it. But again, back to our previous comments, it does also demonstrate the scale of what we're delivering in this region in terms of the number of live projects in delivery. And so you get a bigger program, you get bigger variances often then in terms of the profile about when monies are spent. So again, relatively relaxed in terms of the overall message, but again, keen to have that assurance that the money has been reprofiled now into delivery for the forthcoming years. So thank you for that both, and I'll open it up for any further comments or questions from colleagues. If there aren't any, then I'll just go back and formally move that report. And could I ask again for a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, John. I'd ask if you could all show if you're in favour of the reports, please. Thank you very much. And the updated figures, thank you very much. That's carried, colleagues. We'll move now to item 12, which is the Q4 portfolio monitoring. I'll be coming back to John on this one, but I know John gave us a good run through with the business case recently, which touched upon many of the points in this report. But John, anything you wanted to particularly draw our attention to in this one?
Thanks, Chair. So agenda item 12, there's a whole series of appendices with that. I'm not going to cover all of them, Chair, you'd be glad to know. But what I will cover is at the portfolio level, I'll just highlight a few of those key things of change from the last quarter. So the first report talks about a red, amber, green status across the projects and programmes. Good news for Pentre Owl is that delivery for Zone 1, Canolvan, has gone from amber to green. So the overall status is now green with the project. So construction works are focusing more on final finishes, fit outs, mechanical, electrical services, etc. So there's a high degree of confidence in the handover programme for that. And the digital infrastructure scope moved from amber to green, no change to the overall status. And what happened during the last period was a mid-term economic appraisal was undertaken by Farpoint in Q3. So that's shown that the programme is on track and it will exceed its GVA target. So coming back to what you referenced earlier on, Chair, with the business case. In terms of the portfolio risks, I referenced them earlier on, but I didn't say what they were. So our red risks remain 3. So there's increased construction cost, projects and programs not delivering on outputs and outcomes within what they specified in the business case, and also the 10-15 flood risk management proposal. But again, behind the scenes, I'm led to believe that hopefully will be removed as a red risk soon. 3 risks have been closed this quarter: cancellation of meetings, lack of alignment of communication between partners, and failure to identify or secure revenue funding. And then from a issues perspective, Chair, we've got 3 red issues. In-year variance that Stephen's already alluded to. Again, as Chris, just to reiterate, overall investment is up. It's how we profile them across the remaining years is what we need to try and get more accurate. Variance within the programs and projects against key milestones, that's what I'm referring to as an issue there. And also, because the rising construction costs, they are now in the issues category as well as risks, because some of them have a risk of happening, others are actually happening as we speak. So we do different things for the mitigations or resolutions across the risks and issues. In terms of benefits, we have seen an increase in jobs. It is an incremental increase, but we've gone from 742 reported jobs to 896, mainly due to an increase in support and innovation, low carbon growth and homes as power stations. And investment to date has increased from 459.9 to 536 million, mainly due to, as Stephen said, digital infrastructure and also homes as power stations. In terms of procurement, there's minimal change since the previous quarter. And then on to our construction impact assessment. There's currently a £44.95 million variance, a funding gap across 17 project elements. But we've also drilled into the risk status on all of those 17 project elements. We have 3 green, 7 amber, 3 red and 4 to be confirmed. So again, what I'm trying to reassure the committee is that we're on top of things and we know where we are with each of those rising construction costs. In terms of private sector contributions, this is the update since January. It's a mitigation against an amber risk that we have, and we are estimating to have private sector for Q4 at 719.97 million. That's an increase from the previous quarter. So again, from a dashboard portfolio level, all positive soundings. Chair, we have a lot of information which I would encourage the committee members to have a read of at a project and programme level. But for the purposes of today's meeting, I think if I leave it there and for people to have a look at, and if they want to contact the portfolio office, if there's any specifics they'd like some information on, I'm more than happy to take those queries.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And again, thank you for those headlines. Particularly pleasing to see Pendrawl going from amber to green, and from also to seeing the continued delivery across the portfolio, albeit with some variances. I think just one from me in terms of TAN 15. Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of work through the WLGA with Welsh Government and PAWSO on that, and Welsh Government have published their new TAN 15 now, which I know has been well received. We are seeking some further clarification, so I do hope that we will see that risk come down now we know more certainty about what TAN 15 does mean for Wales. So again, just I think some good updates there, and good to see the jobs increasing as well, and hopefully that will continue to accelerate as we go through the coming months. So thank you for that, John. Again, I think this one is for information, but I'll open it up in case anybody's got any questions or comments for John on the Q4 updates. I don't see any there.
Nothing in the chamber, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So again, that one's for information. So are we all happy to note that one? Thank you very much. And then finally on to our final item, which is the Joint Committee Forward Work Plan. Again, John, anything to draw attention to on this one?
No, Chair, this is an approval document. This is the latest version of the Joint Committee Forward Work Plan. The actual work plan can be found in Appendix A of the agenda item. All it does is summarise the activity for the portfolio across the next 12 months, Chair. We revise this every 6 months and present it to Joint Committee members. The headings, if you like, in the document are around governance, communication, engagement, legal and finance. But now that we're in a pretty good routine, there's nothing to highlight that is probably different than what the committee have seen in rolling 6 month phases.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you, John. So again, that one is for information. So colleagues, we all happy to note that one? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of today's agenda. Can I again thank everybody who's involved in the delivery of the city deal, all of the partners, all of the staff, all of the project managers, everybody out there making sure that we deliver that significant impact to the economy of the region. And again, thank you from myself personally for the support and the re-election of Chair. As I said, look forward to working with all of you over the coming year. So thank you all very much. And with that, I will declare the meeting closed. Thank you all very much for your attendance.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.